What's going on, everyone? Living to learn. Thanks for watching another one of my videos. Again, I'm always excited to make these videos. I do appreciate those of you who have supported and been supporting since I've been doing them. I've been going strong now for over a year, and for the foreseeable future, I will continue to make these videos once a week, trying to get to where I'm doing a couple videos a week. You know, shout out to my buddy Chill Just Cook at Danny's Kitchen. If you haven't checked out his YouTube channel, please do so. He is consistently on the grind making videos. They're all great, well edited, and like I said, it'll make you hungry. So if you haven't ate, don't watch any of the reviews or any of these videos yet until you have something to eat, because he's always eating good food, making good food. But eventually, I'll have some more creativity as a part of these videos. Again, you know, my buddy Chill Just Cook. He's someone that I look to for you know, tips and, you know, inspiration on these videos. But really, my main focus is just being consistent. Okay, so again, thank you all for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing. If you have donated financially, that means a lot as well. And again, it's not easy to come up with something to talk about every week, but it really helps if you enjoy it. And so I do. And I think that's what gives me the edge to be able to do it every week. So what I want to talk about today is something I've been struggling with, battling against, fighting against. It's something that is, you know, we talk about, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to put it. You know, some people say, you know, that monkey on your back, or that just that problem, that issue that just won't go away. You know, it could be something literal. It could be something figurative. It could be a state of mind. It could be an attitude. It could be an outlook. It could be a number of things. The thing that really haunts me and tries to get in my mind almost daily is this idea of self-pity. This idea that it's okay for me to feel sorry for myself when things, quote unquote, are not going my way. When I don't see the success or the wins that I'm looking to see for that day. And it can get difficult when things start to pile up. Now, I've mentioned this many times before, but I'll mention it again. I'm in outside sales. Those of you that are in sales, you understand how it works. Like my buddy Hector says, the highs are high, the lows are low, right? When you're on a streak, when you're doing well, there's nothing like it, right? You feel like you could sell anything to anyone. When you're not on a streak, when you're in what I would call a slump, right, which is the easiest thing to kind of relate it to, I think, it can feel a lot worse than it actually is. And so I want to share my advice as far as how to overcome that self-pity. Okay, now there's probably a number of different ways you can do it, but I just kind of want to share from my perspective. Okay, and if you have anything that's worked for you, please comment. Again, the comments are for that. Any suggestions? If there's something I said that you weren't sure about, if you wanted to clarify something, if you disagree with something, I don't mind. You know, be respectful. But if you disagree with me, that's fine. I mean, not everybody needs to agree with me. And sometimes there's something I'm not recognizing that I should recognize. And so by you pointing that out, that's helpful. You know, again, my channel is living to learn. It's not, I know it all. It's living to learn. I'm still learning. I will always be learning. Hopefully, I'll keep that mentality and that mindset. But, you know, there's a number of different ways to do it. I actually was looking at one of my cousins. He went and did some humanitarian work in Mexico. For those of you that are not aware, you know, Mexico has a large, you know, number of places where it's just, you know, the people are living in dire poverty. And I mean, you know, being in the United States, being from the U.S., growing up in Southern California, Los Angeles County, like, you know, I've seen poverty. I've seen people in dire straits. You know, you see it all the time. And so no disrespect to those people, but when you see it in another country, it's just, it's crazy what people have to endure. You know, these kids and these families, how they're living, how they have to live without even the most basic necessities that, you know, someone like myself takes for granted, you know, because I'm so used to it. And that, that's a perfect segue for me. Like, as far as when it comes to me overcoming that self-pity, the first thing I think is I remind myself, you know what? As bad as this is, as bad as it feels, let me just time out real quick. Here's what I'm not telling you to do. Okay? I'm not telling you to deny your feelings. I'm not telling you to act like you're not discouraged. I'm not telling you to pretend to feel a certain way or another. Okay? When you feel something emotional, you feel some kind of an emotional response, some kind of attitude, some kind of feeling dwelling up in you, recognize that feeling, recognize that emotion. It's okay. I'm not saying deny it. I'm not saying push it down and just ignore it, because that doesn't work. That might be a quick fix. That might work short term, but for the long term and for as far as the most healthy response, that's not the best one. I don't think. Okay, that's my opinion. So I'm not saying deny your feelings, but what I'm saying is, when I think of, when I start to feel sorry for myself, I just think, you know what? Yeah, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good. You haven't won where you've been wanting to get a win. You haven't been successful where you've been wanting to be successful, at least not yet. And you're feeling some type of way. The first thing you want to do is you want to recognize it, right? So I can recognize that. And then as soon as I do that, I have to kind of break things down, right? I got to start to tear it apart and look at it for what it really is. Now, you know what, when we're watching a movie, movies got some great camera shots, some great camera angles, right? One of my favorite is the panoramic view, right? And that's when the camera pans out and you see the entire scene. Like if they're showing you a city, or you just see the full picture. And that's kind of what you have to do with these emotions. You have to step back and draw it out and see the full picture. Like, okay, what is this really about? What is this really about? Why do I feel like it's doomsday? Why do I feel like, the sky is falling, right? Like Chicken Little. And it's funny because we laugh. I laugh at myself, like, man, it's just not that serious. You're being too dramatic. But my mind is telling me that it is. My emotions are telling me that it is. And so that's why I have to take hold of this, because I have to see it for what it is. Number one, it's not the end of the world. Okay. But going back to one of the first things I do is I recognize that, hey, as bad as this is, it's not the first time. It won't be the last time. And you're not the only one. So that right there just kind of snaps me out of my lonely island and puts me back in the world with everyone else. This is an unfair world where unfair things happen, where unjust things happen. And unfortunately, it's not a movie. The superhero doesn't always come through and save the people. Sometimes it's unfair and it's left unfair. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but that's reality. That's the life, that's the world we live in. So when I address that as such, when I tell myself you're not the only one, you're not gonna be the last one, it puts me back in the same place with everyone else, right? Like, we're all going through it. We're all going through something. Okay? We're all struggling with something. We all wish we could be better at something, right? At least those of us that are aware or want to be aware. Some of us are so afraid to even admit that because it's painful, right? Emotions and these things are strong. This fear is strong, this what if it never happens? What if I never sell again? What if I never do this again? Or what if I never this and that? And you start to just go down these worst case scenarios where your mind wants to take you because, again, I've talked about this before. Your brain wants to keep you safe. So it will apply fear where it's not necessary. I'm not saying be in denial. I should be concerned, but at the same time, not to the point where I'm just paralyzed with fear. And that's the thing. This is why this helps. It just draws you out of the picture, places you back, right, where you can kind of see the full picture, that panoramic view. What is this really about? Okay. The second thing I do after that is I start to remind myself, and again, I probably sound like a broken record because I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I start to write down the things. Well, what am I winning at? What has gone well? See, I've said this before, and I got this from a friend of mine. He told me a while back, he said, look, recognize that you've come along further than you were. And recognize that you are looking to go even more, further in the future, right? There's more things to reach, there's more dreams to have and more goals to pursue. But don't forget to appreciate where you're at today. Don't forget to appreciate where you're at in the moment. And as I began to break everything down and I began to really see it for what it is, I realized that these are just my emotions trying to get the best of me. There's nothing to feel sorry about. And here's the thing, it's dangerous. It's dangerous when you give into self-pity. I'm not saying, now here's the other thing I'm not saying don't empathize. If you're feeling something, if something tough, you're going through it, it's okay to recognize that. It's all right. It's, some things are harder for others than, each of us deals with things differently. Like I said, this is not about denial. This is not about pumping yourself up out of, let me just push through. Like, yes, there are moments for that, but it's okay to recognize, like, hey, I just don't feel good about this. I feel down. I feel discouraged. That's fine. But the danger of self-pity is that we rob ourselves. Feeling sorry for yourself actually is one of the worst things you can do. Because what's on the other side of the coin? The other side of the coin is learning. The other side of the coin is education. See, when I go through these things and when I'm dealing with these things as I am now, right? My month hasn't been great sales-wise, okay? It hasn't been great sales-wise, but it's still been great. Why? Because it's forced me to confront things about myself. And when you confront things about yourself, it builds resilience. And when you are not afraid to deal with your emotions and face your fears, it builds this fortitude in your mind, okay? I know I'm mentally stronger than I was a year ago. I know that I am. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I know that I've come a long way. I've got a long way to go. But see, here's the thing. Every time I choose to face it, rather than to sit back and wallow in self-pity, I'm choosing to learn. I'm choosing to get better. If I sit there and feel sorry for myself, sure, it seems like a viable option. And again, I'm not judging you if you do. That's definitely not what this is. This is not a judgment. This is not me telling you, oh, I'm better than you because I know how to face it. No, I'm not. I've just decided that this is the way I'm going to go. This is the way I'm going to approach things. I've recognized that, hey, this is something I'm going to have to deal with often, especially in this type of employment, right? I mean, how's it going to be when I go into business on my own? That's going to happen one day. You think I'm not going to need that mental toughness? You think I haven't recognized that this is preparing me for things that are coming in the future? You see, that's why if you feel sorry for yourself, it is the worst thing for you because you're robbing yourself of opportunity to get better, to get stronger, and to learn more. That's all it is. It's not to say, oh, you should, you have nothing to complain about. I mean, but sometimes we just got to put things in perspective. Because there's always going to be something to complain about. There's always going to be something that's going to be a valid excuse. Some excuses are valid, but they're still excuses. And that's where maturity, that's where we begin to edge, we begin to separate ourselves with that type of maturity. When you know well within yourself that this is a valid excuse, but you're still not going to accept it. I think that's a great place to be. I think if we arrive there, we've come a long way. We've grown. So take a moment and think about that. If this resonated with you and if it's helpful to you, I hope so, because that's why I do this. That's what I wanted to share with you today. If you're having a tough month, you're having a tough time, I just want to tell you, keep your head up, stay strong, read, find encouragement, reach out to people, talk to someone. Do what you have to do. There is no shame in it. There's only one you. Okay, we got to make sure we take care of ourselves, mentally, physically. I'm trying to work on my fitness, my diet. It's been a tough struggle. It's been an uphill battle, but I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit. Okay, and I don't want you to quit either. So I hope this helps. Have a great one.